Hello, Stephen here. Time to show you my Goblins deck tech. I know it's not exactly the spicy original brew that you may be expecting, but I thought I'd start with some tier 1 goodness before lowering the tone with the real jank. To be fair, I'd say Goblins is fairly janky, especially when we're about to take it into a nice modern league here. It's honestly not as bad as you might think, considering we're playing multiple, 1-1s for one, and more 1-1s, 1-1s. The deck does rack up damage fairly fast. It has some advantages over other theoretically better decks in the sense that this glorious mana base does not deal us any damage. So we'll actually be reasonable against the other red decks. We can definitely goldfish pretty fast if people let us, and you always have the outs of just Goblin Grenading someone out. You deal them 10 damage. They're not safe. They're really not safe. Obviously the deck is somewhat straightforward, but it is definitely not thoughtless. Knowing how to sequence your Legion Loyalists and their Goblin Pile Drivers and your Furious Bushwhackers it can be tricky. The sideboard is, as always in Modern, you could consider it a work in progress. There are many cards that are intended to get people. These Dragon's Claws. We have a Miser Blood Moon. We can't really afford to play a bunch of Blood Moons despite the fact that we have a 19 mounted mana base. Just because 3 mana is actually kind of hard to get to, and multiple Blood Moons do not deal damage. We have some Crypts because we're still a bit low on the old good sideboard cards, and we can certainly get somebody. Unwillingly Recruit is also pretty sweet as a threaten effect. Sometimes you flood out and you get them with Unwilling Recruit for something more than a regular threaten. Goblin Chieftain is just when we need a certain amount more staying power. It can be decent against enemies that have a bunch of similar size blockers, so you send in your 1-1s that are now 2-2s against their bunch of 1-1s. It's not exactly a devastating sideboard card, but it just lets you adjust your deck a certain amount. Force Smash to Smithereens. We did originally have something like 10 Affinity hate cards on our sideboard, but I decided to try and mine some other people other than just Affinity. You could argue that we should have Shattering Spree instead, but this deck just wants to go to the face, and this card definitely goes to the face. Pile Drivers when we are in a pure Goldfish race against something like Ad Nauseam, and also has protection from blue, so it's actually fairly good against Merfolk. And Fort Bolt is when they have mana things that we might want to blow up. We unfortunately don't have any good way to deal with Core Firewalker, other than making a massive pile driver and giving it trample with Legion Loyalist. One of the many abilities that this card grants. Anyway, that's the end of the deck. Time to play some matches.